So, a very good evening to you. At the last lecture, which was in August of this year, I asked an important question at the beginning. This is because I am telling things that do not belong to the norm. And then there's always the question, how does he know that? So the first question is, who believes that humans have a soul? Please raise your hand. So those who don't believe it, raise your hand too. No one, not even one brave person. So now here comes the more difficult question. Who believes that the soul has an additive memory over many lives? Another cross-check. 2. Any votes against here? Was that a vote against, so you don't believe it? Okay, admissible. So, now with the dollar bill, we come to a topic that I myself would not have seen that way in the past. I've written a lot about Egypt, talked about it in numerous lectures, and led travel groups to Egypt who were amazed by all the things that you don't read about in the press and the media. And today we saw a dollar bill with the number 666 drawn on it. It exists in plus and minus. In my book on the cosmic order of creation, I was able to explain how this principle is continuously radiated in fractal fields. But every person has the right to choose between positive or negative. This has something to do with tolerance, with spiritual maturity, and with consciousness, which everyone possesses. To understand the whole history of the dollar bill, it is necessary to go into some things that are not generally known. There was a 7-year war in America, which the colonialists of the 13 colonies had fought together with England against the French. It was won. But the war cost England a great deal of money. The result was that there was a lot of resistance in America, and they even had a military conflict with England. And a year before that, the British had even blockaded the harbour in Boston. All these things that had occurred there culminated. And then in 1776, the Declaration of Independence was composed. This is an excerpt from that declaration. It is the most humanistic declaration there is, and many have not even read it yet and usually comment on it negatively. But I would like to read out a short excerpt of what this Declaration of Independence says, among other things. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established, in America they speak of long years, and I will later touch on why, governments should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. That's a wonderful connection to today's times. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. We're at a similar point in Europe. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpation. all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. How history repeats itself. So now I will show the Declaration of Independence in its full original again. And this Declaration of Independence was signed by 55 delegates. So now I have a comment that may be irritating for some. In the book, The Order of Creation, I describe things that I couldn't have possibly known. And I have received a lot of support from other cosmic levels, and I also played a dominant role in Egypt a long time ago. On this Declaration of Independence, in the right column, there is, among other things, a name that I will not mention about a person I used to be. That means in a previous life I also signed the Declaration of Independence. So, at the same time, when this Declaration of Independence was being written and signed, a decision was taken that same afternoon to create a new seal. And this committee, which was to create this seal, was Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, Samuel Adams. One of the three was me. They were tasked with creating this design. They enlisted the help of the artist Pierre du Cimetière. But the man died in 1784. He was an artist, and he was also at the Academy of Arts in Philadelphia. And so it is handed down, integrated the date 1776 on the dollar bill. That is, by the way, 2 times 888. But that was not all. And he also contributed the all-seeing eye. And this design, which at the beginning looked a bit pathetic, was revised by this artist and then finally took on this form. There are things hidden on it that are generally known. The use of the number 13 in all possible variations and forms, namely 13 stars, and they are arranged in such a way that a hexagram can be placed over them. And the stars themselves are pentagonal. This has a very sly background, which also has to do with cosmic order. Then we see 13 letters in E pluribus unum, then 13 leaves on the olive branch, 13 fruits on the olive branch, 13 arrows, 13 stripes, and 13 levels of the pyramid. We'll get to that later. So what is the 13? Is it really something bad just because on Friday, October 13, the Templars were to be exterminated by King Philip? I have talked to quite a few people about the 13. For them, it's a particularly positive number, and I'll show you what's hidden behind it. It has a cosmic order. Many, many years ago, I designed this dense three-dimensional cell packing on my computer. It consists of a total of 12 cells surrounding one in the center. That means 12 and the 13th. In the middle is the crucial one. And what else do we have with 12 to 13? We have 12 meridians that originate from the heart. The heart plays the role of the 13 here. The king's chamber of the Cheops pyramid is divided by the north-south axis, which is dropped vertically from the pyramidion, and it then divides the king's chamber into 13 to 37. Oh, I have a typing error here. Jesus and his disciples. Jesus was the 13th in the middle. So again, something where we have to say that it can't be so bad if Jesus is the 13th. And in cosmic numerology, this number means something like from an existing stability, and a cell pack is stable, to take the path to transgress a spiritual threshold. This means that the next goal will be tackled with it, so the seal again from a different angle. The eagle has exactly 33 feathers on each side, making a total of 66. Then, as was mentioned, the 13 stripes and 9 tail feathers, that adds up to 88 elements that are hidden on this note. The Great Pyramid of Giza has a large gallery that I have been to many times, not as often as in my living room, but quite often. And from the ground to the top of the platform, it is 88 royal cubits, and there is also a hidden symbolism in that. What is even more astonishing about this large gallery, with this step and the gradual tapering upwards, the result is a length of 88.8 royal L's at the top. So, and then I wanted to know from my cosmic friends, what does that mean? And then I was told that every initiated priest received the symbol 88. This means that when he goes down, he has the right to care for and develop his own people and to be responsible for them. But the 88.8 has something to do with it. God is responsible for everything and for the overall development on earth. So now one could first ask the question or claim, where did the American Freemasons get all their knowledge from? That Freemasons founded the United States is more certain than the Amen in church. But before that, something else. This is the so-called Resolute desk, made from the planks of a ship that got stuck in the Arctic Ocean during the winter and that the crew had to abandon. In the middle part you can see the seal too, but that was added later in 1944. Because Roosevelt was physically disabled and mostly used a wheelchair, and he didn't want that, so he had it closed up. And now take a look at the big difference. On the seal and also on the dollar bill, the eagle is always looking to the right, that is, from its position at the olive branch. He looks at the peaceful symbol. The olive branch always stands for peace. And we know this from the history of Greece. But on the desk, the eagle looks the other way, at the arrows, at the warlike variant. And America had long been negatively perceived at that time and had spread a lot of negative energy. But it's remarkable that you have to see it that way. So let's take a leap back into history. It's important to ask the question, how did the knowledge, the ancient Egyptian secret knowledge, come to America? There are various stages that I have listed here, via Greece, the Hebrews and so on, the Templars too, Spain, France, Scotland and England. These stages play a crucial developmental role, and the ones with the Templars are even more special. Now, for the Templars, we have to at least briefly hint at what else was going on. In 1307, the French king destroyed the Templar order in France. The Templars still had a huge naval fleet in the port of La Rochelle, and when they were about to arrest them all, they had disappeared. So somewhere there was a leak and, as they say or claim, they took treasures with them. But here's what is unbelievable. We know that one part of the fleet demonstrably reached Scotland, while there were no statements about the other parts of the fleet. It is assumed, now we are speaking theoretically, that a part of the Templars were in America even before Columbus and founded a first colony there. By the way, they had arrived in the warmer part of America and had already set up the first settlements there. But later there was an expedition by these Templars to Massachusetts. I'm showing that here once again. They made a trip, you could say, an expedition to Nova Scotia. And from there, where they had wintered because their fleet had also got stuck in the ice, they went to Massachusetts. So, and Massachusetts plays an unusual role that most people do not know about at all. Among the Templars there was a Scot. The others, by the way, were also Scots and French, and they managed to flee to America with that fleet. And in America, in Massachusetts, in Westford, there is a memorial stone that reads, Prince Harry, 1st Sinclair of Orkney, born in Scotland, undertook a voyage of discovery to North America in 1398. After spending the winter in Nova Scotia, he sails to Massachusetts. During an inland expedition in 1399, one of his crew died after climbing a mountain to get a view of the surrounding area. The coat of arms on the memorial stone that adorns this ledge is a token of this night. Just a quick note. Columbus only sailed to America in 1492, So this was clearly a bit earlier. So, now let's take a look at this memorial stone. This is the text that I just read out, which is on this stone, to the Templar Sir James Gunn. There was a memorial ceremony held in 2015 where the memorial stone was unveiled, and in addition, the symbolism of a Templar was consecrated on a stone slab. Well, in America we have known for a long time that Columbus was not the first. We also know now, through other research, that even the Templars were not the first, but the Vikings. But let's leave that aside. This is definitely proof that the Scots were in America before Columbus. The other parts of the fleet fled to Roslin in Scotland, which is 9 miles south of Edinburgh, to the Sinclairs. The name Sinclair plays a huge role in the entire history of the Templars and later the Freemasons. In 1440, he began building this chapel of Roslin, which was not consecrated by the church, but was intended to be a Templar refuge. As for the date 1440, I have now realized that our overly clever scientists reject it and give all sorts of different dates. But then I came across a website of the old Sovereign Order of the Knights Templar, which has its traditions and documents from ancient history, and they say it was 1440. Scottish historians have apparently shown that a fire occurred at the construction site in 1443, causing Sinclair to become quite nervous because there were underground passages in the lower part where a number of things had already been stored. And now, in fact, the story begins that has not been handed down before in this form. The dollar bill was printed for the first time in 1908. In 1861 or 1862. There are different numbers given. But now there is this other connection. The Frenchman who died in 1784 added the all-seeing eye and the year 1776 to the dollar bill. But that means that the dollar bill was also developed at the same time, and with all of its content, it was an enormous provocation towards England. But this will be explained in the following remarks, and these dollar bills, as claimed in the official text from the U.S. Treasury, have since been regularly adapted to the current state of development in science. What kind of a stupid sentence is that? If I have a dollar bill and there is special knowledge hidden on it, then I leave it as it is. I have had various dollar bills at home since 1988, and I have noticed that they are different lengths and have different widths. And the seal, both seals in the middle, are oval. But the graphic artists back then weren't so stupid that they couldn't draw a circle with a compass. So that means that the dollar bill has demonstrably been tampered with. Well, we'll ignore that text for now. Now let's take a look at the dollar bill. Originally, the idea was to make the seal or both seals exactly 1 square inch in size. 1 square inch. And you can see if you look closely, the black circle that I have placed there does not frame the inner circle correctly, but has deviations from it. That's the oval shape I mentioned. So that is that statement. But there is something else. This dollar bill has a unit circle superimposed on it. R equals 1. And R equals 1 is nothing else than, if you remember the formula that we learned in school, the area A equals pi times R squared. Pi times 1 is pi. That means the circle should have an area of exactly pi. But now it's going to get even crazier. I have a yellow booklet over there about cosmic measurement systems. In it, I describe some unusual things that are also related to the dollar, to the measurement system, to the cosmic measurement system that was given to man as a boost to civilization. Never invented by humans, and in this science fiction, among other things, I have provided evidence of how to derive pi from an inch mathematically. A professor of mathematics helped me with this. I had laid the foundation, but he provided me with the proof. So, there is a completely unknown connection between pi and the inch. You can't understand this relation easily. Don't try thinking about it, you can read it in my book. Now we come to a first code. A preliminary remark about this. The Hebrews have a so-called code, a letter and place value code. That is, each letter was assigned a specific number. You can check this on the internet. It's as safe as a bank. And if you apply this letter code to the United States of America, something very unusual results, namely 230, but only due to the A in America. And 230, there are some smart Alex, let me put it that way, who claim that this is the evil number of the Freemasons. Complete nonsense. The 23 has something to do with unlocking your spiritual potential. There's nothing negative to that. Now let's get to the next part. $1 has exactly the letter value of 100. And as we know, 100 plus 230 is 330. So this is an indication of the 33rd degree. Now, there are people who say that the 33rd degree is something very bad. I would like to make a comment about that. Especially you women, at some point you have had a child, a little one. You pampered the bundle of joy, yes, and it was a dear, dear child. But the history has shown that at some point this child ended up in prison for theft or even murder. The same person. And that is a phenomenon in history. Where positive things have been developed, the whole thing has been corrupted from the cosmic negative side. So when you talk about it, you have to consider both sides, what once was and what is today. We will get back to this topic in a very focused way towards the end. So then it says in the middle, in God we trust. The sentence bothered me from the beginning because it contradicts the grammar rules. Anyone who is familiar with English knows that the subject must come first. That is, we trust in God. But here is the we in the middle, which also has something to do with the letter code. And it means exactly that we trust in God. And one is doubled, with the shadow, dark, and light. It actually means we trust in God, the All One, a divine interpretation. So now I have skipped something after all, with the A for America. This A was added later to secure the letter code. There is a Jewish chronicler, Josephus, who wrote almost 2,000 years ago that under the star America there is a land across the sea where honey and milk flow. In Iraq there was a sect, I don't know if they still exist today, that had a similar wording. And these Mandaeans claimed exactly the same thing that Josephus said. And on top of that, it has been proven in earlier research that they practice Freemason-like rituals. Remarkable. So in fact it should be the United States of America. And the interpretation by some scientists that it was named after Amerigo Vespucci is complete nonsense and has no basis in fact. The letter code for the A was part of it, and that's why it has to be America. And it doesn't sound bad. So, and this numerical code is much, much more extensive than people would imagine. I said something about the $1, so let's move on from there. I've already shown that this was actually the main geometric code of the dollar bill. And I have to mention again in between, I played an important role in the development of this dollar bill in the period 1776 to 82. And that's why these things come to my mind, and I know I have to deal with them. And then I will get support from my cosmic friends. And this keeps going on to this day. So it's remarkable. When you're on the right spiritual wave, you'll also get the support to understand things. The two seals are also something curious too. You don't put a document or sign first this way and then another way. We'll come back to that too. 2, that's like 2 halves of the brain. And 1 is duplicated in the middle. Behind that is hidden the fact that at the very beginning, twin cells were created, energetic twin cells. But that's a longer story. I don't want to get bogged down in it now, because there is still a lot to be said about it. This is included in my book. So now let's go back to that dollar bill. It is remarkable that 1.11,333, again 1.11, altogether 5.55. All these numbers occur in the Giza Plateau. And the dollar bill used to be a bit narrower in the middle, only 2.0 inches. And today, depending on the year of issue, you can deduce 2.05, 2.06, or even 2.07. It's a mess, I have to say honestly. So, and the 2.54, the total width with the edge, is a stroke of genius. The English defined the inch as 2.54 centimeter, but here it says 2.54 inches and not centimeter. But that means they knew the relationship between inches and centimeters, and I was also able to prove that in ancient Egypt. That's another story altogether. And half is 127. Now we come to the hidden mathematical code. When you determine the area, 2.54 times 6 across the entire width is 15.24. This doesn't tell us anything. You don't have to remember it either. Inside it's 2 times 5.55, 11.1. The king's chamber of the Cheops pyramid is 11.1 royal cubits in height. Once again, this is something remarkable to be seen in context. So then let's look at the circumference. If you stretch the membrane, I've been pondering this for a long time. Why does the inner area have a line around it? Then I understood. When you enlarge these enlarged measures a little more, you get 15.24 again. I just said you can forget the number, but now let's do the following. 1524 plus the same again is 3048. And that is nothing other than how an English foot is defined today, namely as 30.48 centimeters. It is remarkable how one arrives at the centimeter via the inch and then at a thing that has to do with the cosmic code of the foot. This, too, is a measure that has been given to humans as a boost to civilization. So now I discuss this hieroglyph number 127 in the upper right corner. It was explained to me many years ago by an archangel, and he told me that this hieroglyph is a forgotten, hidden hieroglyph. While hidden, you can still find it in the Valley of the Kings on the walls with writing and pictures. It means learning or acquiring something from a starting level of skills, abilities, complexity. This is the ascent that we naturally also experience in life. And then, the straight line means manifesting, stabilizing, and should actually be hidden in principle. Like at school during the big vacation, switching off and no longer thinking about everything you've learned before. Really sad. So now we come to the left seal, where I claim that it had already been developed in connection with the state seal. And we have various texts on this left seal. The curious thing is that neither e pluribus unum nor annuit coeptis can be used to form complete sentences. They are simply slogans that have been slapped on there, and annuit coeptis would mean to agree to undertake. It is not a complete sentence. The seeing eye is above it, the seeing eye of God, and annuit coeptis envelops this seeing eye. That actually means that it was planned that God would protect and support this entire venture in America. It already sounds quite different. Then at the bottom, Novus Ordo Seclorum. The first thing would be Seclorum is misspelled, because it should actually be Saculum. But then I found out that it had to be done that way to secure certain letter codes. So they incorporated a typo or a spelling mistake that you wouldn't even notice when speaking quickly. And of course, in this day and age, the interpretation is only negative. Creating the New World Order. Now the same principle comes into play, which I have explained many times. Plus 13 and minus 13 are one and the same number, but with a different energetic meaning. And 666 plus and 666 minus is the same. It both exists. There is a positive and a negative variant for each number to create balance. So, it's about the new order in America, to be free from English oppression, and for that they wanted the support of God. But now there is something else that completely irritated me. Why is there a great seal under the pyramid? The great seal is officially seen as the state symbol, the stamp with the eagle. But here it shows that it is by the pyramid. Now you could say, typo, memory error, no, none of it. But rather one has seen the spiritual component in the foreground. The spiritual is the be-all and end-all, and we know that matter does not have primacy, although it still does in today's world, but it has long been seen differently in the background. So the pyramid has 13 levels, and exactly between the 7th and the 6th from the bottom there is the center of this seal. And 7 and 6 is 13, but what's important is 1776, which is twice 888. So, and the seeing eye can of course also be interpreted negatively, according to the principle of the eye of Satan, which peeks into the bedroom, right, and controls us. But the positive meaning, that's why this seeing eye can even be seen in many churches, right? The seeing eye of God. So, and the crop circle, this crop circle was created in Wiltshire, in England, over 15 years ago. And when I saw that, I said they did that on purpose for me. But why? There are exactly 33 rays. And we also have 33 in our spine. Our spine has 33 vertebrae, which should release energies during initiation and training processes, all the way up to the top, into the head. Unfortunately, for some people, the energy stays quite a bit lower, and then you're not surprised when they're sex monsters. So, let's move on to the next seal, the edge of the dollar bill. 1, this word has 3 letters, with the letter values 16, 14, and 5 together 35. And then they added one more. 36. What is 36? 4 times 36 is 144. The master number in Egypt, which one could attain on a path of 111 royal cubits when reaching the 33rd degree. So, and now I'll add a personal comment. When I was with my company, that was in 1999, I was still allowed to order a car with my ideas, my bells and whistles, whatever I wanted. Then I went to pick it up later and saw the car number 144. And I said, okay, 12 squared fits, I like it. All right, you can't complain. A few years later, I was told that we gave this car number to you. It is your master number. And now I also understand many other things that have happened over the years. So here I'll show you what happened in the Cheops pyramid. I'll only show the main part. You had to walk in at an angle of 60 degrees, which already symbolized the path with the seeing eye, and I will omit the measures. You then came to the point where you entered the sarcophagus. Freemasons still know the 3 sloping steps today, but they don't know where they come from. And then you had to walk around the sarcophagus 4 times. But I will show it with my feet more like this. Why? It was so close it didn't work that way. And the Freemasons still know that today. They walk around the sarcophagus like Charlie Chaplin, hands on the sarcophagus, and it should be energized and then lifted with telekinesis. And then you floated into it. They had already mastered that, and when you floated in, the lid was lowered again, and then you had access to other cosmic dimensions. That means you were beamed out. And I had been inside the sarcophagus so often and experimented and also tried with the pitch. And once I had found the right pitch, the following happened. Whoosh! I was gone in spirit. I found myself among the stars. I was beamed out. Now, in this lifetime, I didn't learn what still needs to be done to stay a little longer, to go to the planet and so on. But I came back down to Earth. But what was interesting was that when you work in this sarcophagus with a certain sonorous tone, vibrations go through the whole body from head to toe, and that is an experience that you can't have anywhere else in any other room. So I could say more about that, but that's enough for now. And I'll show you the way back, which I find even more ingenious because the way back was 16 royal cubits, which also has something to do with cosmic order. And 16 plus 111 is 127, which is the level of consciousness once again. But personally, I consider the other variant to be much, much more meaningful. 16 through 111, namely 0.144, 144, 144 for all eternity. And that means that once you have attained mastery, you must not be a lazy bum and pressure everyone else because they are not running fast enough to fulfill your wishes. You have to work on your mastery yourself. And that is an important task. And believe me, I try to realize that. I try to occupy myself daily with things, to go deeper and deeper into the cosmic order and other things. So, to understand everything in that direction, I'll make another brief reference to that yellow booklet over there. And believe me, anyone who has read and understood this knows that there is a God. So let's look at things differently again. You can overlay these unit circles with hexagrams, among other things. And here you may not be able to see it very clearly, but inside that's a bit orange-red. There's a hexagon framed. And if you now combine the letters in these three framed hexagons, you get 361 for the first one, which is 19 times 19. This also has something to do with the Great Pyramid of Giza, but I'll leave that out for now. Plus 1. You can derive an A from the pyramid. If you want to, I have to say. But that was necessary to practice that. Then you can derive 130 here, because 3 letters on the left and 3 letters on the right do not belong to the system. And then there are 60, and in the middle you get 130, because these crossing points mark the O and the E. So those are also included. And the last one is just a single sentence in there, or words. E pluribus unum is 138. So, and now let's look at the whole thing. All the numbers together equal 630. This is not a special number for many, but the Giza plateau for the Cheops pyramid stands at a level of 63.0 sacred cubits, and there is a connection to the number 36, the mirror number. I don't want to go into more detail now, but it has its significance. Now I show this again with the A in the middle. And then you do the following. When you overlay these hexagrams, you circle the first letter of Annuit, the last of Coeptis, and of Novus Ordo Seclorum, the first, the middle, and the last. And these letters with the A actually give the following statement in the correct order. The word a Mason, a Freemason, that's pretty powerful, right? So then you can overlay pentagrams. And here there is also a letter code. And when you apply that, it leads to 1152 or twice 576. And here I show the symbolism for the third vibrational dimension in which we live. This is the left one with 3 axes and vibration, because this is a very important question to ask. Can you be happy? Can you be angry? Can you love someone? Can you reject someone? Vibrations are the be-all and end-all. And these cosmic vibrations are at the very beginning. Well, and I also explained that in the book. The fourth vibrational dimension is not space and time. Time as a law of progression exists in every dimension. This is a 4-axis system. And this 4-axis system undergoes an oscillation on each axis of 1440 each, adding up to 5760. That is the height of the pyramid of Cheops to the platform in inches. So, and certain codes have to be reduced a bit over and over again, so that you don't have to represent the numbers with huge, huge values. So 1.152 also is 8 times 144. All right. Now we'll get to yet another code. If you do this here, in the unit circles, we start at the top. In the United States, it's just T, H, E, and U. These 4 letters play a role at the top, and at the bottom the O and all the other text completely. And in the same way, it works with the other circles. And that leads to 1200. The Giza Plateau frames all 3 pyramids in a grid. 1440 north, south, east, west. 1200 times 1440 equals 1,728,000. That was an important number for the Sumerians. That makes you wonder what it was for. With which numbers did they operate? But within the Giza Plateau, the cosmic order is hidden. And now I'll make another comment. When I started to study the pyramids in 2000 and really wanted to write a book, I began writing. Then I had a problem with my shoulder. I couldn't move my arm anymore, so I had to take sick leave. And during this time I gained access to cosmic knowledge, and my teacher was Jesus, and he said, "You can only understand the Giza Plateau when you have mastered the cosmic order." I didn't understand that at the time, but I gradually understood it later. So now we come to the letter code in summary. If you take United States of America and $1, you get 330, with 33 letters. I find that fascinating. Then you have the left seal with the pyramid on it, which is 465. But that only makes sense together with the right seal. Both seals together in that code lead to 777. If we now look at that more closely, we have the 330, the 333, and the 777, together 1440. Well, but one more thing had to be done. In the pyramid there are also letters in there, 9 letters. And only with the code of these letters the whole thing leads to 1440 and to 144 letters. Well, now, of course, the big question is, what is the point of all this? Here are a few pictures to go with it. The Giza Plateau has 1440, the 576 to 864 divides the Sphinx. And if you take this division, then it is inches, cosmic inches, where 144 and 216 come up. And the Great Pyramid of Giza has 144 stone layers in the inner structure and 216 in the outer structure. Let me correct that, 144 on the outside and 216 on the inside. So there are connections that go far, far, far beyond the current level. This week I picked up ordered dollar bills from the bank from 2021, also bent again. But do you notice anything? I didn't put them next to each other or under each other for no reason. Take a look at this. The United States of America, both times the same, once on a white background and once on a black background. The first intuition I received was that the original intention was to ensure spiritual development in America with God's help. And then, however, in history as elsewhere, there is always too much negative energy, and that makes the whole thing dark in symbolism. Of course, there is also one more thing. Masonic temples have a floor, a tiled floor with white and black tiles. But the first thing that occurred to me was that the United States black accurately indicated the future, how energetically dark that is. And at $1, it's exactly the opposite. So, this whole thing raises questions. Did American Freemasons have the knowledge to develop such an ingenious code? My answer is definitely not. Not one of them would have had it. Neither did I myself alone at that time. And I emphasize again in this context that there are things where many others already have made the experience that they get help from cosmic realms, that they have a guardian angel or whatever. But anyone who really believes in such things knows that there are more things between heaven and earth than we generally imagine. So just a few more questions to wrap it up. How can it be that the state seal with the eagle already contained elements that later, combined with the entire dollar bill, revealed an overarching context, even though this banknote was not developed until many years later? Only if you know both parts, you can deduce that. How can you explain that a cosmic code is hidden in the banknote that not even our present-day nuclear physicists know about? The 1440 has something to do with a vibrational pattern that originated at the very beginning in the first cell. Why does the banknote have two seals, even though only one seal is needed to sign a document? This is about spiritual aspects that are hinted at. Two seals. One is the power seal, the state seal, and the other is the spiritual one. Both things are always present in a state, and I have to make another remark today. We have two brain hemispheres, and not without reason. We need them both. We can't drive a car emotionally. We can't hire a company to design our heating system emotionally. We also need reason. Reason is an important component in our third vibrational dimension. We are not yet living on cloud 9. So don't ignore the fact that we men have one brain hemisphere for intellect, but women have two. You have to be able to combine the two in order to derive the ideal outcome from them. So don't just say, I can do everything emotionally, it doesn't work, it's not enough. So why was the dollar bill designed with 10 different fonts and in 2 languages? Nobody bothers about that, and on the top there are fonts in different sizes. It all has something to do with codes, and what I presented are not all of them. But I knew that I would run out of time. Based on this fact, I have left out a lot. So why do hidden hexagrams and pentagrams play a special role? I would like to point out that Plato already claimed that the pentagram has something to do with the creation of the world. I was able to prove that. When I heard that for the first time, I thought he was stretching the truth. I proved it. So you can say that the whole thing is like the cosmic order. I didn't know the cosmic order before either, and neither did any other human being. I am the first to have been made aware of these things and to have been educated about them. The order is there without us knowing about it, without us realizing it. And the $1 bill is no different. It was already cosmically created as a blueprint and came into effect in 1776. You may remember that I showed here in one picture a 111 royal cubits long way into the chamber and 16 out. 16 times 111 is 1776. That means that at this particular point in the history of the earth, there was a change that unfortunately, due to negative forces, did not come to fruition. But the dollar bill was not created by a single person. They did have some knowledge to do it, certain knowledge, partial knowledge. But I was also trained, as I experienced with that book. So, and with that we have come to the end. Thank you. And I'll let myself get carried away as far as saying that the dollar bill is a godly work. Please think about that.